Last month, LSTV were invited to Shooters Sports Bar in Leeds, where ex-NFL fullback and current Sky Sports regular Cecil Martin conducted a meet and greet with fans. But before we sat down with the man himself, we spoke to the bar's manager Joe about the growing popularity of American football.
Right, so Joe, you're one of the managers here at Shooters. How great is it to have an ex-NFL player in your bar?
It's an absolute honour to have him here, to be honest. I follow NFL, not religiously, but I recognise him, and he's an absolute character to have here. He's friendly, one of the nicest guys I've actually met, to be honest. So
I was here when you covered the Super Bowl this year, and the place was absolutely packed. Just how popular do you think the sport is in the UK?
Well, I think it's growing. Its popularity is rising, to be honest. I've started getting into it, loads of my mates are getting into it, and we host the Super Bowl here every year, and every year it's just gotten busier and better and even more popular as the years go by. So,
what NFL team do you support?
Well, I'd probably say Packers, to be honest.
See, I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan myself, but okay. Right, so if you were going to play in the NFL, if you were going to follow in Cecil's footsteps, what position would you play?
Well, it's a tough question. I'll probably say quarterback, to be honest, because they're the most popular, and why not?
That's the cheerleader's dream, isn't it, the quarterback?
I'm cheerleader's dream myself. So.
Next, we spoke to Connor from the Leeds Bobcats about his training session with a former pro.
Right, so I'm here with Connor, who's obviously an NFL fan, Texans fan. What made you come down today to meet Cecil?
I've been training with him all day, and he's just a great sports commentator, and he's been had a long career in the NFL.
So, of course, you play for the Leeds Bobcats. Yep. Cecil came down today to do a training session with the Bobcats. How was that?
It was tiring. It was hard work, but it was a lot of fun. He's a great coach.
Did he give you some professional tips?
Yeah. He gave us a lot of professional tips, like how to stretch, how to work out, best muscles to work and stuff, good lifting.
So what position do you play for the Bobcats?
I'm a offensive lineman.
See, I don't think I could make that position. I haven't got that. I'm a bit weedy myself. But okay, so Texans fan, not the best season last season. How do you think they're gonna go in this season's NFL?
I think it all depends who they draft first round. If they draft a quarterback, they'll do well, I reckon. But if they draft Jadvian Clowney like they want to, I don't think it'll go too well. I think it'll be another bum season.
And finally, we had the chance to sit down with Cecil himself.
How are you, Cecil?
I'm doing great, Declan. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. How you finding Leeds so far?
You know what? This is a great community. I've never been to Leeds before. They have a nice city center. Got a chance to do some things up at the West Leeds Rugby Union Stadium. With Gridiron TV, we broadcasted the Bucks Championship. So what a great stadium. And so I look forward to seeing more of Leeds. I haven't seen as much as I want, but this is a great sports bar we're at here at Shooters, and I've really enjoyed my time here.
You mentioned the Bucks Championship game there, and there might be some people watching that have never seen a game of American football before in their life. So in 30 seconds, why should people get into the NFL?
I mean, the reason is just it brings kids together. It gives them an alternative opportunity of playing a sport and being a part of a team. And the sport is growing in general, and I don't know, I just think there's a lot of good people out there that care about the sport.
I came down here for the Super Bowl, and the place was absolutely packed. And of course, for somebody who works for Sky and Gridiron, and with Wembley being sold out 3 games this year, it must be great for you. So exciting to see the sport growing. But where do you think it can go? What do the NFL need to do to keep the sport growing in this country?
Wow, Declan, that's a great question. It starts with coaches. I think there's a lot of great men and women out there that care about the sport and know the sport and want to learn more about the sport and want to learn how to teach the sport. And I think that'll trickle down. From there, I think we need to support the youngins. Grassroots perspective to it is very important. I really am a fan of the University League. I am a proponent 100% to young people embracing the importance of education and maximizing life potential by what being a student athlete and getting an education at a higher level will mean and what it would do for your life. And so those that were playing in the game and play American football for the University League, I think the support of them and their growth is really important.
As someone who obviously used to play, you now work in the media. Is that something you always saw yourself doing when you got out, and especially with your involvement with Gridiron and things like that? Is that something you always saw yourself doing when you retired?
Well, you know what, and I'm glad you asked that, because number one, it's great doing an interview with students like you guys who are on the rise and trying to make things happen, because I remember what it was like for me being at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and trying to figure out, what's the next steps. And I interned at a station, WB, it was Channel 15 in Madison, Wisconsin. And so I had had an interest early on, and just like you guys have an interest, and that's why you guys are doing what you're doing. And then the path, almost went in a different direction, but it was Sky Sports NFL 10, 11 years ago that, called me up and asked me to do something for them, which opened up the door for me to do a little bit more for them, and here we are 10 years later.
A bit of a sillier question to finish. This year's Super Bowl, a lot of eyes were drawn to it from non-NFL fans because of Bruno Mars and the great halftime show. So if you're in charge of organising the Super Bowl next year, and you can pick anyone, like alive or dead, the dream Cecil Martin Super Bowl halftime show, who's in it?
Wow. Okay, so the dream halftime show, I'd go with a little bit of, we start off with a little Michael Jackson, right? Got to have a little Mike in there, right? And then right where Mike is doing his thing, Elvis comes on rocking them hips, right? All right, and while Elvis is rocking those hips, okay, we end up having the Supremes and the Temptations come on to do a little something.
Where can people find out where you're going next? I know you're on Twitter, but is there a website people can look up, see where Cecil's tour stops next?
You know what? So I have not set my website up yet, my friends, but I need to do that. I know. So you just got to stick with me on Twitter, Cecil Martin 1, at Cecil Martin 1, and that's also my Instagram, at Cecil Martin 1. And so what I'll do is I'll be posting the flyers and the information in those places, but then the local communities, the local American football coaches and officials and people in those communities, we're putting them out in their own websites and things like that. And I would expect to have a website out in the next 8 weeks. But yeah, just follow me there on Twitter, Cecil Martin 1, and Instagram, Cecil Martin 1, and that's the best way to find out.
Brilliant. Well, Cecil Martin, it's been absolutely great having you on Leeds Shooters TV in Shooters. Thank you so much for joining me.